in 1 second and 10 under the track record. Has all the makings for quite a race.
Nissan know-how has been the real story behind practice and qualifying in the build-up to yesterday's gun-ho show for the Park Royal pole spot. Peter Jackson Teamsters, George Fury and Glenn Seaton started the day in the low 52-second bracket, but as the first session unfolded, it became clear the little Skylines could make the high 51s without too much tweaking. Amaroo and V8 Commodores have hardly been compatible over the past few years. Today's Holden hopefuls have qualified well within the top 8, but the 70-lap distance of the race might well suit them in a revised format.
Yeah, I can't make up my mind though, whether 14 5-lap sprints or 10 7-lap sprints.
Amaroo is home base for the JPS BMW team. Most of the experts have tipped an all-black track attack here today. However, Jimmy Richards and Tony Longhurst have been shut out completely by the new boy on the block, Ludwig Finau, fourth fastest in the third of the Bimmers.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on me, and you know, obviously I haven't got the experience in racing, racecraft, but see how we go.
Has Jim or Tony been along to you this weekend for any tips?
Not yet.
A nice little reply anyway. It goes to show the chap's learning to become an Australian at a rapid rate.
He's done a fine job, Frank.
Yeah, he's very good, yeah. We had a bit of faith in him from the start, but it comes and goes. We've had a big week this week, and we're 3 engines to rebuild after Sandown, through no fault of any engine job. It's just sump failures, letting oil out. And it's just the workload was a bit high, and we're still trying to get on top of it. And as all you can say is, young Seaton and George are doing a good job, sod them.
Queensland's Dick Johnson starts from position 3 in today's 25-car field and could be the boy to watch in the Shell Sierra Cosworth. But the dynamic duo they'll all have to beat, series leader Glenn Seaton and our Amaroo Park Royal pole sitter, Georgie Fury.
We're lucky to be, first and second, and we'll just try and play it by ear like we did at Sandown. And I think Jim will have his work cut out to get by most of these guys maybe for 30 laps. So it's only the last half of the race that Jim will come into his own, I believe.
Well, a complete blitz of the front row by the Peter Jackson Nissan team of George Fury and Glenn Seaton. Keep in mind, a lot of people expected BMW to have the front row here. They weren't expected to win, though, at Surfers Paradise.
The jump from the line showed how much torque the V8 Commodores have when Larry Perkins ripped into the lead. He was pursued by Jim Richards in the M3, Gary Scott, who made a brilliant start, and Dick Johnson, who muffed his first corner charge. The Park Royal pole sitter didn't take long to strike back. With a bit of elbow, he was able to bustle Scotty out of the way. But that was the one and only moment of glory. Up at the S's, Johnson's turbo problems reared again, and he broke a turbine wheel. And while Queenslanders collectively sighed, Richards was able to sneak past Perkins to set sail for a resounding victory. As Johnson parked the Shell Sierra, Andrew Madiki was repeating his practice act and showed some speed by passing Scott for third, and he didn't look back. Then the double dose of bad luck for the Shell Sierras. Greg Hansford capped off a luckless week with more turbo problems. After recovering from a bad start, Tony Longhurst burst into action to liven up Glenn Seaton's life. And in almost the next breath, the BM pilot picked off his fellow Queenslander in a razor-sharp move that we witnessed graphically on Racecam. Lap 9 of 46, and Andrew Madiki made his move on Perkins to make second, and from there, the top 2 were settled. Back in the pack, Peter Brock and John Donnelly made some interesting signals to each other. They seemed a tad unfriendly. And Tony's big crusade was still on. He made his point here to Larry as they rounded the fast back section and almost came unstuck in the process, while George Fury made mince of Larry, whose tyres were past their prime. The last half of the race was a cruise for Richards, and he took the win easily.
So a Nissan blitz of the front row here at Amaroo Park Raceway today. Might be timely to look how the field will line up for round number 8. From pole position, George Fury, of course, in the Peter Jackson Nissan Skyline. From 2, teammate Glenn Seaton in the second of the Nissan Skylines. From 3 is car number 17, Dick Johnson of Queensland. From 4, car number 12, Ludwig Finau in the JPS BMW. From 5:35, Andrew Madeki in the Ford Sierra. Out of position 6, car number 05, Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore. From 7, car 2, Alan Grace. From position number 8, car number 11, Larry Perkins. From 9, car number 3, Jimmy Richards. From 10, 75, Colin Bond in the Caltex Alpha. From 11, car number 4, Tony Longhurst in the BMW, and rounding out the top 12, Greg Hansford in the Shell Sierra Cosworth. We'll be back in just a moment.
Amaroo Park Raceway. We're preparing for round 8 of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship. We're riding around with Racecam with Alan Grice at the moment. And Gricey, of course, has a job ahead of him, as have all the Commodore drivers this afternoon. We've already been through the grid for you. As you recall, pole sitter for today's race, George Fury in the Peter Jackson Nissan Skyline, and sharing the front row with him, teammate and series leader Glenn Seaton. What a great way to go into round 8 with, of course, the grand final still to come a fortnight from today at Sydney's Oran Park Raceway. Row number 2, of course, made up Queensland's Dickie Johnson in car number 17, the Shell Ultra Cosworth Sierra. Car number 4, number 12 for JPS BMW, Ludwig Finau from 535, Andrew Madecki in the Oxo Supercube Sierra. Then Brocky, car number 05 for the mobile team, and right behind him for Bob Jane T-Mart's Alan Grice in the Chickadee Commodore. And then the third of the Commodores, car 8, or car 11, Larry Perkins starts out of position 8. Jimmy Richards, Colin Bond, Longhurst and Hansford round out the 12. Surprisingly good performance in qualifying by Colin Bond in the Caltex Alpha. He's certainly up there, and the man with it all to do here today is Jimmy Richards. There's Bondy in 75, Gricey just ahead of him in the Bob Jane T-Mart's Commodore. 70 laps, what a screamer, 30 seconds away from the start. I know it's been said before, but this could well be the race of the series on the tight confines of Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway. George Fury and Glenn Seaton will lead up the hill for the first time. 10 seconds away from the start of round 8 of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship from Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway. Racing, getting off the line perfectly, George Fury, Glenn Seaton side by side, then Dickie Johnson on the inside of Ludwig Finau. Peter Brock makes a good start. He's followed on the inside by Larry Perkins. Grice has been left behind. The Caltex Alpha of Bond goes up to the top of Peter Jackson. They drop into the loop for the first time, and it's the Peter Jackson Nissan team, 1-2. Johnson from Queensland is third. Greg Hansford made a blinder of a start off the back, and he follows them through. The exit from Valvoline, they work down to Mazda Corner.
Look at them go for the first lap here at Amaroo Park. Ludwig Finau qualified extremely well and is holding that position down at the moment. Just in behind Dick Johnson, of course, the two Nissans leading the way, then Brock, then Perkins.
Oh, and look at Greg Hansford serving Gary Scott. Round Scott he goes, third time this week, and will he survive? Yes, he does.
How fortunate. Goodness me, nose into the traffic. Oh.
Gary Scott, the first one to exit the field. George Fury round for the completion of the first lap, and only 69 to go. Across the stripe, Fury, Seaton, Johnson, opening a gap over Finau, Perkins. Peter Brock is the next one to go through as they work their way up the hill. Then, of course, Alan Grice just back behind them.
Oh, and George getting very wide that time across the top, and Glenn Seaton goes out very wide. Just finishes
George
with
has got
enough
problems for Fury. He backed it right off, or if he did it to let Seaton through for the lead, he almost called a chain reaction back behind him. That wouldn't have helped Johnson at all because he just balked on it. Now, whether or not he's going to play rear gunner a la Sandown, we'll wait and see.
Perkins up in front of Brock now in fifth position rather.
They work their way down to the lake corner. Wait for them to go through the turn. It's Larry Perkins making a big move here on Ludwig Finau.
Brock does the same.
Brock does the same. Grice tries to move it up on the inside to do the same. Then, of course, Richards and Longhurst. Beneath our speed camera, 2 laps completed. 68 remain. Round 8 of the Shell Ultra Australian Championship, and it's Johnson making the big strides to the top of the hill, pressuring away at George Fury as they drop, and Fury again is sideways as they come over the top of Nissan Skyline.
Something very strange happening with George's car. It wouldn't normally carry on like that, and he just tapped the brakes halfway through the middle of the Dunlop loop.
Johnson's through on the inside here.
Has he got a flat tyre or a deflating left rear or something?
Well, he's doing a good job of backing them up behind him. All this time is Brock locking up brakes. Grice has moved up behind. I tell you what, it's had the desired effect. It's given Seaton an absolute break on the field. Down to the lake corner.
Jim Richards is flying as well. He's closing up very quickly on Alan Grice. He's right in behind Peter Brock now. So Richards thrusting his way through the field effectively. Ludwig Finau are getting caught up in the traffic as Dick Johnson really gets into the back of George Fury as they go down the straight. George's car carrying on a treat at the moment as the thing really starts to hang its tail out. Dick Johnson the second.
crowd just erupts on the hill, and Perkins moving in. He will not give way if he can get down the inside of Fury. They are George just to let them know. Sorry, George, see ya. Perkins is through, and that takes Brock through for the freight train.
Well, I tell you, Fury got a small nudge there from Perkins, but that aside, there's something seriously wrong with that car.
George had a tyre problem on Friday. He just had a crook batch of tyres, and it was his left rear that gave him strife on that occasion. I wonder whether that's occurred again, and now he gets served by Jim Richards out of the way. Alan Grice buys into the action, and Medicki takes his road through on the inside. What an incredible battle.
And here goes Medicki down on the inside. Alan Grice sits behind to the JPS BMW, and I think got a bit of sideways movement coming out of that turn. Across the line they go. Seaton is the race leader. Johnson gaining marginally on him, followed by Perkins in third. Brock is fourth. Fifth is Jimmy Richards. Sixth then is George Fury, followed then by Alan Grice.
George got by Alan Grice that time. Shot from Seven's race cam. And look at the back of the Nissan really sliding around. It's certainly not meant to be handling like that at the moment. The car wanders very wide in the loop, and George will be very unhappy with the way it's performing. He's a long way offline, gets out onto the ripple strip.
They work their way through Mazda corner. Down once again to the left-hander at Honda. There's Jimmy Richards coming back to
Tony Longhurst going through on Medicki.
Yes, Longhurst. Jimmy Richards hooked up in there, or Ludwig Finauer as well, as they head down. And here's Medicki.
Sandwiched in between Longhurst and Finauer.
Oh, isn't he getting a good working over? A case of BMW malaria from Bavaria today.
Blondie gives Finauer the go-by as well as Medicki passes Longhurst. By gee, the action is coming thick and fast here with only a few laps gone in this 8th round of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship. Over the top of Venture Pave again.
2.3 seconds between race leader Glenn Seaton and Dick Johnson.
Looks like everyone's developed a bit of Longhurst play around with the boys today. I tell you what, there's Medecki's Oxo Supercube Sierra, the front dangling off it, the coach work. He's already had one or two little buffs in there. In the meantime, Glenn Seaton still in front, Johnson in second, then the scrap between Larry Perkins, Peter Brock, being the next ones back.
Then Jim Richards, then George Fury, Alan Grice, Andrew Medecki, Tony Longhurst, Colin Bond, Ludwig Finauer. Oh boy, the big field streamed through once again. George Fury, the man that's had all the handling trouble this afternoon. And Glenn Seaton, race leader, doing it comfortably at the moment. He managed to get a good break on the rest of the field while teammate Fury was having all that trouble and really holding up the traffic behind him a couple of laps back.
Well, I've got the clock on Glenn at the moment. We'll see what sort of times he's turning in. He qualified in 51.92. He and George, the only two drivers to break the 52-second barrier in official qualifying yesterday. He's maintaining that gap over Johnson.
There's beautiful pictures coming from the JPS airship high above Amaroo Park Raceway, tracking with our race leader Glenn Seaton. As he goes through Toledo corner, you'll be able to see the gap that he's established so far over Dick Johnson. They go across the start-finishing line, work their way to the hill. There's Johnson running in second spot. The next car through would be Larry Perkins, with Peter Brock sitting right behind him. Beautiful shots of the Amaroo layout.
Lap times are a little bit slower than we probably anticipated. They're down around the high 53s, even low 54s at the moment. Glenn recording a high 53 that time.
Lap times might be slow, the pace is frantic.
Remember, of course, they did it yesterday with a full qualifying setup with light fuel and very sticky rubber on Wilco.
Seaton working hard at the wheel, trying to protect his lead. But it's a commanding lead. Seaton in front, Dick Johnson in second place, Larry Perkins running third in this 8th round of the Shell Ultra Touring Car Championship, ahead of Brock, Richards and Fury. 11 laps gone in this 70 laps, round 8 of the Shell Ultra Touring Car Championship. Round 8, Jimmy Richards, the big mover in the field. He's up to third place. He's just got by Peter Brock and Larry Perkins. Glenn Seaton for Nissan continues to lead the race from Dick Johnson in the Shell turbocharged Sierra. But Richards qualifying well back in the field in 9th position on the grid, has really begun the big move in this race.
He had a lot of trouble in practice with slower cars and couldn't get a clean run, and was a little bit unhappy about the setup of the car. yesterday in some discretionary practice at the end of the day's proceedings. Jim went out and managed to do some quiet laps and just get it all together again. And he's charging through the field at the moment, Frank Gardner and the JPS team.
Hand on the watch. Checking the gap between Richards and Johnson in second place, obviously, I'd say, because that's Jimmy's next mark.
He'd also be keen to have a look at whether or not Glenn's getting away from him, because that's the ultimate goal. It's 4.1 seconds from Glenn Seaton, race leader in car 15, to Jim Richards in the M3.
Seaton leads Johnson, Richards, Perkins, Brock, then George Fury.
George seems to have recovered a little bit now from that problem earlier. I know that we'll get some details from Fred Gibson later on.
Longhurst all over him.
As they go through Dunlop Loop, there's Jimmy Richards going through, as Gary has said. A great start. We'll wait for the rest of the field to come by. There's Perkins, the next one, just sitting back behind Richards. Then Peter Brock. So the Commodores are going well, and just back behind them, of course, another great scrap starting.
Fury and Longhurst, yeah,
Here's
they are
Longhurst
really
straight,
going at it, yeah.
Longhurst straight down on the inside of Georgie Fury. There wasn't too much Fury could do about that.
He gave him plenty of room too, which was good sportsmanship on George's behalf.
Allowing for the fact that that if the race isn't over yet for George Fury, he's given way pretty easily to Longhurst.
So Longhurst through on Fury, then Mediki, then being followed by Alan Grice and Colin Bond, and Bondy's really going well in the Alpha 75. The Caltex entry, they've been doing a lot of development with the car. They've had some turbo problems in the last couple of rounds. Sandown and Surfers Paradise not going Alpha team's way. Alan Grice, shot
look at this.
Cam, and there's Bondy. Behind him, one of the Kiwis in the Nissan.
Grice in the big V8 Commodore really has a battle on his hand here against Bond and the little Alpha.
There's the rest of the traffic behind them, as you can see. So Bond is making life very uncomfortable for Alan Grice at this stage.
If it gets much closer, we won't be able to see him over the tail of the car.
That's quite a group of cars. Behind them is Ludwig Finua. And then in car number 24 is Ken Bagent. Then we've got Greg Hansford, then Trevor Ashby. So that's going to obviously be a real dice later in the race.
Grice made quite a good start. It was gobbled up on the way up Bitchapay for the first time by both Peter Brock and by Larry Perkins. They've long gone. And Gricey finds himself back in the pack just a little bit in the Bob J. T-Mart's Commodore, trying to fend off a very determined Colin Bond in the Caltex Alpha.
Back at the head of the field, Johnson's closing very rapidly on Glenn Seaton as they go down to the lake corner too.
Yeah, that gap is now 1.4 seconds. I think it was out to, what, 2 and a bit or 3 the last time I called it. It's the advantage of a V8. Alan Grice just pulling away a little bit when he can get the thing squirted up straight, but this is where they suffer. Under brakes, 1,325 kilograms, and there's second place Dick Johnson. Chasing Glenn Seaton quite effectively.
Johnson dropping down into Dunlop Loop, closing it up on Glenn Seaton. Glenn has said throughout the weekend that tyres would be the major worry facing Commodore drivers, but wouldn't be for his team. And yet Grice and quite a few of the Commodore drivers believe a few of these lightweight cars might really feel the pinch.
And just look at, on some of these shots here as we get a bit wider, Jimmy Richards, the black BMW in the background. Developing into a real battle up front now. Seaton breaks through the lake corner. Johnson in hot pursuit. Jim Richards coming up very quickly on that pair now. Larry Perkins next heads the V8 division, followed by Peter Brock, then Tony Longhurst, George Fury. So Nissan started 1-2 off the front row. But Fury has slipped back through the field.
I said before that Bondy had trouble in the last 2 rounds of the Touring Car Championship, making a hat-trick. The Alphas died.
Yep, smoke coming out of the Bond car in the meantime. We're still following this epic struggle up front. The 22-year-old Glenn Seaton for the Peter Jackson Nissan team, just leading from Dick Johnson, who's getting more competitive at each lap around Amaroo Park Raceway this afternoon, driving the Shell Ultra High Cosworth Ford Sierra. The gap to them has closed up quite a lot, and Jim Richards is still making great ground on the both of them. Perkins sits in 4th place. There's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th back behind them. So Johnson in 2nd, doing quite nicely.
Colin Bond heads to the pits in the Caltex Alpha, steps out of the car. Either a motor or he's blown a turbo, comes straight round. The crew looking at tyres. In the meantime, Tricky Dicky in number 17, sitting right in behind Glenn Seaton in number 15. And I tell you what, this sellout crowd at Amaroo Park Raceway today will erupt if Johnson can take Seaton from behind.
The other interesting thing, Mike, is that Jim is closing the gap from himself to race leader Glenn Seaton. It's now 2.7 seconds.
Johnson looked like he smoked a tyre, locked a brake coming out of Honda corner that time. They make the stretch to the lake turn, the right-hander. Here's Glenn Seaton. Goes into today's round as series leader from Jim Richards. There's Richards lurking in third place at the moment. Coming up for the completion of about 17 laps.
Lap boards tell us that they're doing about 54-second lap times, so it's a good pace, the 70-lapper. Incidentally, Peter McKay checked with Fred Gibson re the George Fury problem, and he hasn't been in contact on the two-way, so Fred assumes that whatever the problem was, it's cured itself, and it might have been owing to the fact that they went for a reasonably hard compound tyre to start this race and couldn't get them warm.
Dick Johnson of Queensland closes all the time on race leader Glenn Seaton. They come out of Mazda corner, the downhill run now to the left-hander at Honda corner.
Seaton leads, Johnson second, then Jim Richards. There's been a change in the motor placings just behind them. Perkins still holds down fourth place, but Tony Longhurst has moved to fifth. He's got by Peter Brock.
Toledo corner again, Johnson getting closer. They work the front straight at Amaroo Park on the way up Bitchapave Hill again to Nissan Skyline, and Glenn Seaton still leads the high-speed parade to the top of the hill. They're coming up on David Radcliffe. Radcliffe waves them by. Come down on the inside, he says. Seaton very quickly through there, just kisses the curve on the way through. Johnson is through, and all the time Jim Richards is gaining. And Richards, of course, a master of Amaroo Park Raceway. This is where the JPS BMW team do all of their development work.
Top two cars in the series running 1 and 3 on the track at the moment, Seaton and Richards. Sandwich between them, Dick Johnson. And sandwich is about the right word at the moment too.
First to third, I should say, put my teeth back in, is now 2.2 seconds. So Jim just inching closer all the time.
Well, before Johnson can go on with Seaton, we might well find that Richards arrives to try and hurry him along. They drop into Dunlop Loop, order unchanged. Down towards Mazda corner, 20 laps have gone in this 70-lap Shell Australian Touring Car Championship round. The order: Glenn Seaton, race leader. Dick Johnson, second. Jimmy Richards, third and gaining. Fourth, Perkins. Fifth, Longhurst. 6:05, Rocky. Welcome back to Sydney's Amaroo Park. Pictures, of course, coming to you from the JPS airship sitting high above the circuit. Here's the scrap, there's the airship, and the order has not changed, but it is becoming far more interesting as Jimmy Richards gets right onto the tail of Dick Johnson's Shell Ultra High Cosworth Sierra. Johnson runs in second, just ahead of him. Race leader Glenn Seaton and the Peter Jackson Nissan Skyline number 15, who also happens to be the series leader. Over the top of Bitchapave and down into Dunlop Loop again. Johnson was closer a few laps ago to the back of Seaton, and now Richards starting to apply the real pressure. And all those laps of development tyre testing here at Amaroo Park will now be working for the former Kiwi, who only 2 rounds ago was the series leader. It's been a seesaw battle all season long.
Whoa.
And Richards right into the back of Dick Johnson. Playing for keeps now as they come out of the turn and work their way. The drag chute run down to the lake corner, the right-hander. Richards goes in high. He'll feint a pass here. I don't think he can keep Johnson all the way down. Yes, side by side out of the turn. They come up to Toledo corner, the right-hander, and the run back onto the start, finishing straight here at Amaroo. Johnson and Jim Richards in some car wars. They chase Glenn Seaton up Bitchapave Hill. Richards working his way to the inside this time. There's the race leader coming into view. He goes through Dunlop Loop. Jim Richards again, looking for an inside pass. He could have set Johnson up perfectly here. Johnson will close it as they come out of the corner. He's making Jim Richards work for every placing.
You rarely see Jim scratch or bend a car, and I was a little surprised that he lobbed it to the back of Dick that time, but he was obviously really closing under brakes. The car is brilliant into this left-hander, and Richards goes round the outside in an incredible manoeuvre.
Fantastic ploy by Jim Richards to move up to second place in this round 8 of the Shell Ultra Championship. Glenn Seaton continues to lead through Lake Corner. Richards second, Johnson is now third, and Perkins fourth.
Tremendous stuff from Jimmy Richards. 1975 Australian Touring Car Champion. Now, the only man that sits between himself and a big bag full of points, Glenn Seaton. And he'll be gaining on Seaton over the next few laps. Holding Seaton and Dick Johnson.
Seaton with only a 6-point advantage in the championship. This is the second last round, the grand final coming up 2 weeks' time at Oran Park. So it's got down to a head-to-head battle between the 2 leaders.
Glenn Seaton, right behind him, Jimmy Richards, number 3, man who's been passing all the cars in the field today. Dick Johnson is still third. 4th place is held by Larry Perkins. 5th place, of course, by Tony Longhurst. And the man who qualified so well and looked like he was able to go on with it today, Colin Bond in the Caltex Alpha. He's in the pits, and with him, Peter McKay.
Thanks, mate. Well, with turbo cars, the sign of the smoke usually indicates that a turbocharger is blown. But Bondi, on this occasion, it wasn't that at all.
No, actually, Ludwig came down to the corner and didn't brake, I think, and just nailed me back tyre and bent the Didoyan tube, and the wheel was just rubbing on the inner mudguard, and there's virtually nothing we can do about it. So, and we're pacing ourselves along nicely, actually, and looking forward to the race. And it's one of those things. I think he's a little bit inexperienced, actually.
Thanks, Cole. There you are, Mike. Colin Bond, a victim of the Panzer Division.
Thank you, Peter McKay, and a very disappointed but still laughing Colin Bond. To the late corner, Glenn Seaton, here he comes. Just put a lap on Gary Rush, having his first run here today at Amaroo Park in the touring car. 28 laps completed of 70 laps for round 8 of the Shell Ultra High Touring Car National. Heavy and wide, 1 round to go, the grand final at Sydney's Oran Park Raceway a fortnight from today.
All that hustle and bustle between Jim and Dick was a little bonus for Glenn Seaton. He managed to open up just a slight gap over the 2 of them while they were entangled in that battle. Richards rounding up Gary Scott in the second-hand looking Mobil Commodore. Scotty's been in the wars this week. Just check that gap again between first and second. It's now 1.8 seconds. It's interesting that the 2 lead contenders, as we watch Frank Gardner, who in turn would be getting a little nervous at this stage, I'd say, the 2 leaders aren't getting that far away from Dick, nor Larry Perkins and Tony Longhurst. And Perkins is doing very well in the V8 Commodore. Larry went for a very hard tyre.
Let's look at the gap here as we have Seaton going through. Jimmy Richards is there, and then, of course, Dick Johnson lapped as Gary Scott. Then the scrap that is now starting between Larry Perkins and, of course, Tony Longhurst. Just mentioned by Neil. Longhurst, a bustling type of a driver. Larry doesn't like too much nonsense, but he'll find his Commodore quite a handful here at the closing stages of the race.
Car number 24 in trouble, that's Kent Bagent. He was running very well, I think up as far as about 7th or 8th.
Here he comes, down on the inside, bang, out of the way, fella. Another BMW. Tony doesn't mind the doors and the guards.
Tell you what, he's lucky he doesn't have to pay for them.
You wouldn't be trying that on Larry if it was any other track except Amaroo, where the Commodores are basically rendered useless. I'd be timely to check Larry Perkins, courtesy of Nissan know-how. 37 years of age, comes from Melbourne. Of course, drives the NZ Fluid Connectors Commodore. Professional race car driver. First in the Australian Formula 2 Championship in 72. First in 71 Formula Ford. First in the 79 Australian Rallycross. Larry Perkins, one of Australia's most experienced touring car drivers.
There's Bagent. Great showing from him at Sandown and Surfers Paradise. But pretty grim-looking problems there with the car now as they take it to the back of the pit counter.
On screen now, Sevens race cam at Alan Grice's Commodore, looking at the back at Greg Hansford in the second of the Shell Ultra Turbo Sierras, and Trevor Ashby just behind them.
Trevor's done a fantastic job all week, Wilco. He said, OK, I'm going to go for this race in a conservative way in the Lansvale Smash Repairs car. Gone for a very hard compound tyre. And incidentally, John Giddings has gone out in car number 34 in the Oxo Super Cube Sierra. But Ashby looking very neat at the moment, doing a good job. And he was very happy to be rubbing shoulders, he said, with the big boys.
Well, we saw him perform exceptionally well in slightly lower company, I guess, out here at Amaroo Park earlier this season. And he's more than holding his own here today against these guys, because he hasn't got the money, he hasn't got the backing that some of these fellas have got.
He's astounded yesterday. He said, I can't believe how many tyres they throw at their cars, in reference to Grice and Brock and Perkins and so on. So I think he's doing a marvellous job.
That's Trevor Ashby we're talking about, the third car here in this line of three, the yellow Commodore. That's the man.
He's got Wally Story in his team, and Wally's a very experienced race engineer and very, very good at setting up a car. And they've been spending a lot of time on this vehicle out here at Amaroo Park, just getting the car settled and trying to make it as easy as they can on its tyres. And that's the whole key to this race.
And the fourth car in this quartet is Ludwig, who had his moment of glory in qualifying fourth.
He's still doing a great job. You have to give some credence to the fact that the guy has only basically done club racing here at Amaroo Park. He's doing a super job. Ashby at the moment with a car length over the BMW, a little bit of trim hanging off the car. But he's no stranger to Amaroo Park. He's done very well here before in sports sedan racing. He's 36 years of age, and he's done very, very well in the AMSCAR series, as you can well see. Last year, a rookie at the James Hardy 16th, and strangely enough, today is his very first Touring Car Championship race.
Well, he's doing it well, tucked in just behind Alan Grice and Greg Hansford. Of course, they're running just a little off the pace up front. Glenn Seaton continues to lead the race from Jim Richards, Dick Johnson, then Tony Longhurst, and Perkins bringing up fifth spot, just ahead of George Fury and Peter Brock, of whom we have not seen a lot, and that big VL Commodore of his still not running anywhere near the obvious potential that the car has.
Greg Hansford, second of the Shell Ultra High Ford Cosworths, and Alan Grice continue their great scrap.
Well, Greg had a real moment in the opening lap with Gary Scott, the fellow Queenslander. He had real strife at Sandown when he got tangled up with Peter Brock, and I didn't see the incident, but I saw the pictures afterwards, and the front of the 18 car was very second-hand after his little coming together with the hole.
Let's
okay. Glenn Seaton is race leader from Jim Richards. Third place is Dick Johnson in the Ford Sierra. Tony Longhurst next. Larry Perkins is fifth, and in sixth place, George Fury in the Nissan Skyline.
Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway, lap 36 of 70, round 8 of the Shell Ultra High Australian Touring Car Championship. Peter Brock comes up on the inside of teammate Gary Scott. Brock running 7th in the field at the moment in the Mobile Commodore number 05, and that's not too bad. Not Brock's favourite racetrack deal.
Very, very difficult proposition for Brock and the other Commodore runners, because this circuit doesn't allow you to rest at all, and that doesn't make it that much easier for the other guys, let me tell you. But these cars are the heaviest cars in the race, and nobody's been able to engineer a tyre that's capable of withstanding the sort of punishment that these guys are dishing out. But Brock's doing an outstanding job at the moment. The new VL Mobile Commodore, very, very nicely prepared, and Brock going for a strange mix of rubber this weekend. Avon's on the front, Dunlop's on the rear, Bridgestone stickers on the car. Make sense of that.
I don't know. There he is, trying to put a lap on Gary Rush as they head up Etchepave Hill again. Rush moves to the outside, waves Brock through on the inside. And of course, the real dice that's developing is, of course, Tony Longhurst and Dickie Johnson in car number 17. Johnson was running second, passed then by Richards. Richards is closing on Seaton, and Longhurst has made it all the way up onto the bumper, of course, of Dick Johnson. There's the scrap, going down to the lake corner. No baloney Tony, put some muscle over Dick now as they come out of the corner. It depends how resilient Dick is in this situation.
Well, we saw Longhurst give the flick pass to Larry Perkins in no mean fashion. And, of course, he and Johnson have had a few set twos together at Amaroo Park previously.
1.7 seconds between Glenn Seaton and Jim Richards.
Johnson using a very wide line, really caught himself out there. Longhurst comes up on the inside of him. See who can race who down through here. Johnson really cost himself that position on the entry to the corner.
Coming up on Brian Callahan too. So Longhurst will probably dodge for cover behind him if he can. See if he can snooker Johnson.
I don't think there's too much Dick can do about it at this stage. It would just appear either he's just trying desperately to conserve tyres, or his tyres have gone. Floats it in on the outside of Callahan this time as they make their way. Oh, and there goes a turbo, was it? Or maybe some cement dust on the track from where one of the production cars went in early. No, the hand comes up. Dickie Johnson's touring car challenge is over. He pulls straight in, right in front of the commentary position. Crowd goes wild on the hill. Dick is out and just backs it down pit road. His race is over.
Well, goodness me, what a disappointing end for Dick Johnson as we now join Sevens race cam with Glenn Seaton, and I can tell you Jim Richards is hot on his hammer. You see him glance up at the rearview mirror there once, twice, 3 times in the space of 100 metres. He's getting a worried boy as he comes down to the late corner.
It's going to put a lot of pressure on the 22-year-old. I think the Nissan team had written off the JPS BMWs here today because they were starting so far back in the pack. Jim Richards has everything working for him as Glenn Seaton leads the charge up Bitchapave Hill again.
40 laps completed.
30 laps remain. And they drop into Dunlop Loop with a car to be lapped here on the exit to the loop on the run to Mazda corner. Seaton down on the inside and Richards glued to the back of the Nissan Skyline. Now the downhill run to the left-hander at Honda. Richards closing all the time. He's been picking Seaton up for the last 5 or 6 laps.
The interesting thing is that there's an 8-point difference in overall terms between either of these guys winning this event, and that'll throw the championship into real disarray.
With one round of the championship, the grand final to go in a fortnight's time at Oran Park. Across the strike again. Seaton leads up the hill. Richards continues to stalk him for the lead. Longhurst is now broken clear into 3rd. Perkins is 4th. And through Mazda corner. Now Jim, I guess, can afford really just to sit in behind Seaton and keep the pressure well and truly on him. They come out of Honda corner. Looking very smooth indeed, unruffled. At the controls of the number 15, Peter Jackson, Nissan Skyline. Glenn Seaton leading the race. A lot of traffic to contend with today at Amaroo Park Raceway. Seaton out of the draft, and Richards sits behind him. Dick Johnson, of course, has exited from the field, and with him in the pit area, Peter McKay.
Flag. Well, another familiar sight. Dick Johnson's car 17 retiring with the familiar smoky trail. Turbo, Dick.
Yeah, another race, another turbo. Simple as that.
You must be getting a bit sick of all this.
That's the best one I had too. That was the Adelaide one.
Right. It seems that it's pretty wild and willing out there.
Mate, I don't believe it. I think they were Liverpool Speedway or something. They're crashing into one another. They're holding people up. You know, but that's just the way it is. Nature of the circuit, I suppose.
70 laps around here will be hard going.
It's like Robert D. Costello running a marathon around his front yard.
Thanks, Pete.
I can't top that one.
No, nor can I. Here comes Jimmy Richards making the big move now. On number 15, Glenn Seaton, as they head up Bitchapave Hill. Glenn now knows he's got a whole bundle of competition sitting right on his bumper. Richards been warming to this for 10 or 12 laps. Seaton, of course, carrying our race cam as well, our second unit, down through Mazda corner.
Tell you what, he might have to take it off its mount and throw it at Richards in a minute to get him off his back.
Gee, those BMWs are strong under brakes, a little bit lighter than the Nissan, which is an advantage, and they've got huge brakes on them.
Glenn Seaton, car number 15, continues to lead with Jimmy Richards.
ever so close now as they come through the late corner. Jimmy Richards swings to the outside. Seaton covers his tracks. They come through Toledo corner and Richards hangs in for the draft and the run to the top of Bishop Pave Hill again. Seaton across to the inside. Here comes Richards standing on the gas. How close is he? Seaton's going to make him do it very, very hard indeed, covering his tracks. Just trying to slip back here to the inside.
Oh, Richards fainting every which way, but I tell you what, Seaton rails like a greyhound. There's no doubt about it. He doesn't leave much room on the inside for Richards.
Well, I think Jim was probably going to work him over in the remaining laps of this race if he's going to run as close to the left-hander at the bot of Honda corner. He builds up to a big challenge, has a little nibble, pulls back again.
They're both very, very sensible drivers. They don't want to exchange paint. And Jim will just wait his moment. Tony Longhurst, meanwhile, getting closer to the back of those two drivers. I'll just get the clock on them again. But it could be cat and mouse for the next few laps.
Yeah, Longhurst is making a big run on the leading pair. Don't you worry about that.
3.5 seconds, first to third.
To Dunlop Loop. As they come out of the bend, head down through Mazda corner. See whether Jim can pull him in on the run to the left-hander at Honda.
A lot of dust there.
Neil mentioned the BMW M3, very strong under brakes. And here they come towards the late corner now.
Oh, Grice has had a big spin at the late corner too, just ahead of this pair. He's up and running again.
That's where all the smoke's from.
So he still leads at Seaton, but he's got a real handful. Seaton the leader, Richards right on his hammer in second, Tony Longhurst closing in third spot, then Perkins, Fury and Beniki in round 8 of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship.
49 of 70 completed from Amaroo Park Raceway. Pictures from the JPS airship as Glenn Seaton in car number 15 leads the Australian Touring Car Championship round. Right behind him, of course, the man who has been stalking him throughout this race, Jimmy Richards in the JPS BMW number 3. And Richards, of course, making a big move here on the outside. Now feints it back to the inside. Seaton may be caught out very wide here indeed as they head down to the right-hander at Lake Corner. Richards carrying on here on the outside. He couldn't possibly get round there. They swing into the turn. We take race cam. How close are they? Has he got through? There is Richards on the outside, and Richards in car number 3 has gone through to take over the lead. What a drive from position number 9. The Nissan team had discounted the fact that Richards could come back through the pack. He's done it and has taken the lead in round number 8 as they top Bishop Pave Hill.
Sensational performance from Jim Richards, and Glenn Seaton now has to be content with second place.
Man is still in there, but feeling the pinch, of course, Alan Grice, Bob Jane Timart's Commodore.
He's just given up a spot to Ludwig Finauer too.
Well, of course, he had that spin about 5 laps ago, Wilco, that caused him no end of drama as he came out of the right-hander.
Trevor Ashby in behind Grice, Ludwig Finauer having just got by, and Finauer, oops, there goes Seaton, just put a lamp on Alan Grice. And oh my gee, he's getting it from every which way. That must be Tony Longhurst.
I tell you what, Longhurst, don't write off the chances of a 1-2 here for JPS BMW this afternoon. How close is Tony Longhurst getting to the tail of Glenn Seaton?
Poor old David Radcliffe caught up in that drama. It's an uncomfortable feeling.
They work their way back onto the start finishing straight here at Amaroo Park Raceway. There's the meat in the sandwich, so to speak. A Bavarian sandwich at that. Jimmy Richards leads round number 8. Second is Glenn Seaton, and closing all the time on Glenn Seaton is Richards' team partner, Tony Longhurst of Queensland.
Larry Perkins still holding down 4th ahead of Seaton's teammate, George Fury. Car 35 is in next position. And that, of course, is Andrew Madecki in the
oh, and there is Seaton. Seaton has gone off the racetrack. A blue locked up a brake, had to go straight off the racetrack, and that has just put Tony Longhurst scot-free home into second spot. It's all happening in the closing stages of this race.
Well, we thought it was the Commodores that were going to have problems with tyres.
Let's have a look at this on the Shell Ultra High replay. Already locking it up as he drops down into Honda Corner. Trying to four-wheel it through there. No way in the world. There goes Longhurst through on the inside. And Glenn Seaton drops a spot. He's now back to third. How things can change, Dickie Johnson.
Yeah, you're not wrong, Mike. Actually, poor old Glenn, he's been obviously having a bit of trouble locking up brakes for the entire race there. Nearly every lap he's been locking brakes, and he's obviously starting to suffer the penalty with flat-spotted tyre.
You appeared to be in with a real chance early in the race, sitting. You picked up Glenn Seaton very quickly, and then all of a sudden it was a case of you got there, but there was no way of going on with it.
Well, actually, it's I think this is going to be more of a tactical race, which has really turned out to be. I was just going to try and sit behind Glenn because I knew he'd be running reasonably quickly and try and conserve the tyres for the onslaught towards the end of the event. But obviously the turbo took over first.
How did the tyres finish?
Very second-hand, actually.
Are they?
They don't feel all that good. There's a fair bit of tread left on them, but they actually, they're very, very slippery indeed.
Well, Jim Richards has been doing all the charging from position 9 through the pack. I just wonder what shape his tyres might be in.
Well, I don't know, but the front of his car couldn't be looking too good because he hit me up the back that hard. I thought it was a Mack truck.
Yes, we caught that.
Richards has come from 9th position on the grid and Longhurst from 11th. So the two JPS cars have done extraordinarily well in the race to this point. That's Richards, race leader. Through to the lake corner ahead of teammate Longhurst and then Glenn Seaton. So let's check the positions for you. Richards, Longhurst, Seaton, the top three, followed by Larry Perkins, then George Fury and Andrew Madecki in round 8 of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship at Amaroo. 57 laps completed, 13 remaining, and the view from the JPS airship tells us nobody ain't going nowhere until this one is all over at Amaroo Park. Jim Richards continues to lead teammate Tony Longhurst with Glenn Seaton in the Nissan in third spot, followed in turn by Larry Perkins and George Fury.
I think Perkins has done the job of the Commodore drivers today. He's been very sensible.
He certainly has, Mike. The guy is obviously driving very conservatively and has done since lap 1, and it's obviously showing through sheer consistency that the guy looks as though he'll get to the end.
George Fury just up ahead of Larry Perkins as they go through the lake corner. He passes Alan Grice.
There's not too much Grice you can do about that when you're almost, I guess, on your Yokohama canvas.
Mate, 5/8 to 6/5 to nothing, I think you can do.
So how does the game plan change on, say, a different circuit, like Oran Park for the Grand Final? It's a fairly neutral circuit for everyone.
No, I think it's a pretty neutral circuit. I think you'll find that the BMWs could suffer a little bit there because there is a bit of a pull up the hill onto the main straight, and the Nissans also, the turbo cars will come very well up the hill onto the bridge. So I think you'll find it suits the Nissans more so than what it would the BMW.
What about the Shell Cosworth Sierra?
Well, mate, if we get a turbo to hang in, I think we'll give them a fair sort of a fright there because it's a good circuit, and I think you'll find it'll be an excellent race.
I think it'll get a packed crowd. Anyone who talks about live television of an event in the capital city of origin should come along and eat their words today at Amaroo Park Raceway. They are absolutely hanging from the rafters here today, and they've seen a fantastic race.
Well, that's what championships are all about. When you consider that it's going to go down to the wire, I think you'll find that it's a better race. Here's Andrew Madecki's car. It's obviously had an altercation or something.
Just hanging together.
Just hanging together. Actually, that's probably a part that I need after Jim got me.
Well, don't worry, because Tony Longhurst didn't miss Larry Perkins either.
Well, there's bits and pieces falling off everywhere.
I think he threw a Coke can out the door, actually.
Well, it stopped the static electricity, if nothing else. Andrew Madecki in the Oxo Supercube
has been black flagged. Righto, Andrew, off you go. You've had your run for the day.
Well, Andrew Madecki may or should actually come into the pits the next time around. Won't be for much, just come in and take the back part of it. The front looks a bit second-hand as well.
It's a bit hard to say what he had an altercation with. Could have been a slower car.
In fact, I think Andrew did get caught up earlier when
George Fury eased off the pace for Glenn Seaton to pass him, and everyone backed up behind him. It looks like Madeki goes into the pit area, and it'll be a very quick pit stop indeed. Here comes Madeki. Won't take long for the crew to go rip and tear. Our crew are right there. Selects another one if we can just get going.
Oh, she's got a bit more than a...
No.
Yes, okay, we'll leave that at home, Mum.
Well, that's spoiled the broth of the Oxo Super Cube.
Yeah, I think that's about a $2,200 ring and pinion by the sound of that.
Well, in for a quickie, but out of the race. Andrew Madeki.
Race leader, Jim Richards, doing it well after coming off 9th position on the starting grid. Now leading as the race unwinds with just 10 laps remaining. Richards for BMW, Longhurst for BMW, Seaton for Nissan Skyline, 1, 2, 3. Fury is 4th, followed by Perkins and Brock in round 8 of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship.
Welcome back to Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway. Lap 64 of 70, round 8 of the Shell Ultra High National Touring Car Championship. The man who runs in second place is Tony Longhurst of Queensland, setting it up beautifully for JPS BMW 1-2 here for round 8 this afternoon. Glenn Seaton still in third place in car number 15. And the man who was carrying the Ford Sierra flag after Dick Johnson fell out, Andrew Madeki, is in the pits, out of commission, and with him, Peter McKay.
Thanks, Mark. Well, never let it be said that these engines don't get hot. You could probably do a 5-course meal on this thing, but it wasn't the turbocharger, Andy.
No, there was no problems. We'd wound the boost back because I wanted to be in there for a finish, and I thought we were looking pretty good. I touched somebody and then the plastic buffer bar started hanging down, but I really do think that in this case the officials were a long way over anxious. Now, it's plastic after all. They didn't check with my guys. It wasn't a safety problem, and I think that it's criminal that they can cost me my race and my sponsors coverage on television because of an arbitrary decision like that.
OK, an unhappy Andrew Madeki.
Obviously. Well, he got a fair run. 5 laps to go. And Jimmy Richards leads round 8 of the Shell Ultra Nationals. Second spot still being held down, of course, by teammate Tony Longhurst in the second of the M3 BMWs. And back behind them in third is Glenn Seaton. And with the rather intricate point structure and allocation for classes in the Australian Championship, think about this. When the season started, everyone thought the title was a lay-down misère for Georgie Fury, who performed so well last year. 8 rounds completed, basically, 1 to go. And if Richards wins this afternoon, Seaton finishes in third spot. Going into the grand final in a fortnight's time, Jim Richards will lead 164 points to Seaton's 162. 2 points between them going into a grand final. What a cliffhanger. Here they are setting up for a great form finish. And they deserve their 1-2 today. I think Ron Meacham of BMW will be delighted. The car industry, of course, and particularly if you're trying to engineer BMW, import into Australia, will be enough to make you want to jump off the gap. However, some good news for Ron Meacham and BMW and Frank Gardner and the team that backs them. On Amaroo Park, their own home ground, they look set for a 1-2 this afternoon.
Richards leading, Longhurst second, Seaton third, then Fury, followed by Larry Perkins. And then Peter Brock. So Brock hasn't been spectacular, but he's just hung in all day. And is going to cop his best placed finish in the new VL Commodore in this race here at Amaroo today.
You'd think they were ready for a funeral rather than a 1-2. Frank Gardner.
I don't think he ever looks any different, does he?
He doesn't really.
I wonder what he looked like on his wedding day.
Then again, for the poor old Commodores, I guess you could say, Dick, that Amaroo has done for Commodores what the Grim Reaper has done for 10-pin bowling.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, Mike. Actually, it's the difficulty is with the circuit. It's just, you know, there's not really enough distance between corners, and I tell you what, the guys that get out of these cars are going to feel pretty second-hand by the time they're finished. It's like really doing a set of exercises or a bit of stuff in a sauna, because it gets pretty hot in there.
Golly. Fred Gibson, the team manager for Peter Jackson Nissan, Obviously, listening to George or Glenn Seaton, they're going to pick up third spot with Glenn today. Not too happy, but Tony closing the gap on Jim Richards all the time.
And I tell you what, Glenn Seaton is certainly starting to come up on the back of Tony Longhurst.
Exactly.
Which could be a very interesting sort of a finish.
They put a lap on Peter
we've just backed the Commodore. Ashby
Trevor Ashby.
Be sponsored by Lansvale Smash Repairs. That may help.
And I tell you what, I wouldn't like to be in it. Thank you very much.
Not too much in that. There's Harry Hansford going through in the second of the Shell Ultra High Cosworth. Tony Longhurst. They've all managed to negotiate their way past Peter Brock. There's Graham Hooley from Western Australia. Shield Seats Commodore entry. Probably the most travelled driver for today's race, apart from Ludwig Finauer.
Yes, Ludwig's got a long way to go home, hasn't he?
Through Honda Corner. Second placed Tony Longhurst trails team leader Jim Richards, and getting right on behind them, wait for this, will be Glenn Seaton. He's caught his second breath.
1 lap to go too. This will be... No, don't worry about it.
Here they come. They're taking the last lap board now, and Glenn Seaton starting to gain on Tony Longhurst as they head up Bitcher Pave Hill for the final time.
This could be one very interesting lap.
Here's Trevor Ashby in the Lansvale Smash Repairs Commodore.
He'll need him.
On our Shell Ultra High replay. Exit, 1 Commodore in the closing stages of the race. Bow, you got it from the second angle.
Oh, that hurt.
They drop into the back part of the course on the last lap. There's the gap. Jimmy Richards, car number 3, the JPS BMW, leading from teammate Tony Longhurst, and recovering very strongly to put the pressure back on Longhurst is Glenn Seaton. Down the Shell sweeper to the right-hander at the lake. But 1 corner to go. The short straight to Toledo Corner. He's achieved the impossible here today at Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway. The last corner comes up, the checkered flag comes out. Gentleman Jim Richards wins it for JPS BMW. And teammate Tony Longhurst takes a second. And Frank Gardner even thinks about a smile. Third place will go to Glenn Seaton. And right behind him, Larry Perkins, followed by Georgie Fury. A great drive, a great race. Car number 15, Glenn Seaton, and the 2 JPS BMWs. Let's confirm the placings for you. Jimmy Richards, the race winner. Well done, Jim. Tony Longhurst takes second. Glenn Seaton, third. Fourth place, George Fury. Fifth place to Larry Perkins. And sixth place, and a good one too, to Ludwig Finauer. So the JPS BMWs, 1, 2, and a 6th place. So they're on their cool-off lap now, coming back round where they have the trophies. And of course we have a lot still to come on 7 Motorsport over the next few weeks, and to give you an indication of what is to come, let's have a look at Neil Crompton's diary.
Pencil this one in, folks. You can pig out on motorsport when we present the grand finale of the Shell Ultra Touring Car Series across the network from Oran Park on July the 5th. With 8 rounds behind them, the boys know that this will be the race that counts. There's plenty of scores to settle, so make it if you can, or catch all the colour on 7. The entertainment won't stop at the Tourers. We've also got the Motorcraft Formula 4 Driver to Europe Series, and those super fast shopping mobiles will do it again for us in the Production Car Championship. Also on the menu, another great helping of the World 500cc Motorcycle Championship. It'll be bikes in the land of windmills and dikes for the meeting of the series at Assen in Holland. Keep your fingers crossed. Wayne Gardner's got a 17-point lead, and he won there last year. Plus, there's our regular roundup of all the racing from around the globe. Take the weight off your shoulders, don't get the wobbles. We're back soon with some knee-trembling motorsport to take the strain out of your Sundays.
Well, pandemonium here at the presentation following today's round of the Touring Car Championship. Congratulations, Jim Richards. And, of course, we've got John Rowe, the retail manager for Shell Australia, here to sash the winner of the 8th round of the Touring Car Championship, and also Bernard Gruber from Fowlerware as well to make a presentation, as it was a round of the AMSCAR Series for Amaroo Park as well. And, Jim, this can't get much closer with 1 round remaining in the series. By my calculation, I think you are now 2 points ahead of Glenn Seaton.
I haven't bothered to work that out, but no, it was a good race, a good clean race. We raced pretty close without touching too much paint, and it was great.
You obviously, the JPS team obviously had a very, very solid and cool plan to consider, because you came off 9th and 11th positions on the grid respectively, yourself and Tony, and yet you've come home 1st and 2nd.
Well, we thought we could run the 70 laps as fast as anybody, and it was just as a matter of getting past the 8 cars in front to get to Glenn, and then try and pass him, which I thought, you know, would be the problem, which it was.
There were a few casualties in the race. The Commodores just never seem to get into it, but then they have a tough time here at Amaroo.
They do. They're just a little bit heavy for the tightness of the track, and all credit to the guys in the Commodores for qualifying so well. I think they basically knew that they would have a very hard job of it, but they did great to get up so far on the grid.
And the battle between yourself and Glenn, obviously you were aware of the point situation and what's hanging on the victory here today.
Well, no, I honestly thought secretly that I could win it, but maybe I thought I was, you know, joking a little bit. But I went into the race thinking that I could win it, and you've got to think positive, obviously.
Okay, so from here on out, one big round remaining at Oran Park, different circuit.
Yeah, different circuit. I don't know how our car will go there. I don't think Frank's ever been there for any testing, but I'm sure it seems to have suited all the circuits in Australia so far, so there's no reason why it shouldn't there.
Alrighty, fantastic win today. Congratulations. Jim Richards wins round 8 of the Shell Ultra Australian Touring Car Championship here at Amaroo Park this afternoon. Well, what a race it was. Congratulations not only to Jim, but of course Tony Longhurst coming from 11th position on the starting grid to take out second money, and Glenn Seaton put up a fantastic battle right through the afternoon and clung on for third place in the race. And as I said, the point situation going into the final round of the Touring Car Championship at Oran Park is really fantastic. Only 2 points separating Jim Richards and Tony Longhurst. That race, you'll see it on the 7 Network.